Hi again, it's VoidBurger with another easier to produce video about monster opinions I have. Why not? I already made one of these comparing the Maw from the Medium to Pyramid Head from Silent Hill 2. You can check it out in the corner there. I recorded that twice so I would point the right direction. I'm a genius. And that comparison was very much focused on just the gameplay elements of these villains' introductions. How do they functionally work? How do they succeed or fail at instilling fear in the player? That sort of stuff. It's a good video, I think. Watch it. I didn't touch too much on the visual design of these monsters, and I got a bunch of comments saying that they'd actually like to hear my hot monster takes on that kind of stuff, so I'm gonna continue to bully the Maw just a little bit longer with my content and point out why the Maw fails from a character design perspective. Because frankly, the Maw deserves to be bullied just a little bit.
Don't look at me!
Oh. Blue, 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 don't look at me. Ugh. Well, I'm gonna be looking real close, actually. Content warning, we've got some edgy horror monsters to look at and talk about. So there's gonna be mentions of sexuality, rape, violence, child death, child molestation, trypophobia, which is the fear of little tiny clusters of creepy little holes, eating disorders, self-harm, fetish stuff, and general monster nudity. Ugh. And again, this is all just opinions. None of this is subjective fact or anything like that. If you like the Maw, go ahead. That's fine. Cool. You're not like a bad person for that. I also want to put out there that no shade is intended by me at the concept artists who worked on the Medium. I have total respect for concept artists. Super hard job. And concept art is an incredibly iterative process where a bunch of different higher up people pick and choose aspects that they like and don't like in a design. These artists rarely have the final say in a design, and this is especially the case if they're working with a non-indie game company. So be chill, don't like tag the artists in this. That's snitchy, it's rude. Don't do that, it's weird. Also, I want to throw out a spoiler warning. There's some spoiler stuff for the plot of the Medium and also Silent Hill 2 and a little bit of Silent Hill Homecoming in this video. This is because the Maw's design is trying to evoke the same aura of Silent Hill's creature designs, in that some of the most famous Silent Hill creatures are designed with plot symbolism in mind. Those little psychological hints in their designs is something that has made them so provocative and enduring. And it's very clear that the Maw is desperately trying to hit that mark in the same way, but has no concept how to do it subtly or abstractly, which was an important aspect of the more successful Silent Hill monster designs. Disclaimer for pedants. I know that the overall visual design of the Medium is emulating the style of Polish artist Zdzisław Beksiński. I know. Don't type that down there as some sort of correction, because I know. I didn't originally mention Beksiński in this video because I think the Maw and the Medium in general only bear a passing resemblance to Beksiński's work. His art is way more varied, nuanced, and interesting than all of this. I think the game does a pretty bad job in general copying his visual style, but that's a whole nother video. I don't want this channel to become like the Medium hater channel, so it's not a video that I'm going to make anytime soon. Anyway, back to the video. Oh, I hope you don't notice me messing with my hair the whole time. It's not going the way I want it to. Anyway, this creature is over-designed in a big way. There isn't one specific component that's 100% shitty. Like, all these individual design aspects can and do often work well in creature designs, but as a whole, there's too much. There's too much going on here. It's clashy, it's try-hard. Less is usually more when it comes to making a monster. Let's look at this mess, starting from the top and working down. We got naked, we got odd-shaped head, we got spooky mask, we got monster tongue, we got busted bat-like wings, we got Slender Man build, we got spooky boobies, we got trypophobia holes, we've got claws, we've got self-harm wrappings, we've got skin deformed by wire-like bindings, and ballerina feet. That's a lot. You look at other iconic monsters and you can usually list them as having 5 or 6 or less really standout features. Because this thing is swamped with bells and whistles, none of them stand out in the end. It's just total feature creep. It's the Homer of monsters. The Virgin Homer of monsters. Before we get into each individual chunk of the Maw here, I want to address its most striking, immediate characteristic, Its stature. Tall and skinny, it's generally a cool, disturbing aesthetic. There's nothing inherently wrong with going for the Slender Man look. Some of my best friends are Slender Men. But it doesn't work with the Maw because it clashes with its gameplay. As I mentioned in the other video, you have a couple hide-and-seek stealth sections with this monster, where the protagonist, Marianne, must hide behind your classic video game waist-high cover. You know, nothing inherently wrong with this kind of monster gameplay either, but it's incredibly frustrating for the player to not understand whether or not this thing can see you. It's really tall. Due to its staggering height, logically, it should be able to see you. Height is usually an advantage in hide and seek. We learn this when we're 4 years old, right? And it's not implied that the Maw has any kind of visual impairment going on. Players will often chicken out and move, further exposing themselves because they think they're already about to be spotted. So the height of the Maw actively and directly makes these sections of gameplay worse. And there's another major character design flaw I'm gonna bring up later that also contributes to wrecking these stealth sections. We'll get to that later. Anyway, let's crit the close-up stuff. As has been pointed out by multiple people before me, the shape of the Maw's head is suspiciously similar to the Angel of Deaths from Hellboy. Just that this part is moved up, so it looks like a silly little hat. But I also want to offer that this might have been inspired by the heads of the schisms in Silent Hill Homecoming, just because Bloober Team is way into Silent Hill. I'm actually a little fond of the schisms design because I like their smooth skin. Love when a monster has nicer skin than me. What's your skincare routine? Anyway, the Maw's head has a lot going on just by itself. The shape is interesting. It implies some sort of halo or crown, something religious or regal, which is not the case. It's too bad that a monster that's such a messy bitch has a head shape that evokes a sense of dignity and grace.
To be my friend.
That's a shame. I have no idea why they went with this half-moon shape for its head, so I'm gonna reach for it. I'm a Silent Hill fan with an anxiety disorder. I'm very good at overanalyzing. What if it's not a moon, but it's a stylized sickle? Because there's like a big communist subplot in the medium.
That's no way to talk about a government agent, comrade.
I could believe it, except the Maw has nothing to do with that subplot, so hell yeah, it means nothing! Let's talk about this porcelain half mask that it's got on. Now, these masks have been seen throughout the game on the faces of the dead, or the spiritually dead. It's more complicated than it needs to be. I wish it was just ghosts. So, I mean, that's gotta mean something, right? No. Like, this used to be a living person and it got corrupted or something. Corrupted humans is a truly great standby horror trope. It pops up a lot in video games.
What are you?
Are you blind? It's me. Carl Semke.
Because it's such a slam dunk to get people invested in the body horror of the monsters. Like, that could be me! Oh my god! Or it gets you wrapped up in the ethical and moral quandaries. Am I killing people?
Monsters? They look like monsters to you?
What is humanity? That's scary to think about. But nah, that's not what's happening here with the Maw. You don't have to think about anything, don't worry. The Maw tears people's souls out, and when that happens, they become doofy statues in the other world. And like, you gotta find the masks and give it to the statue and say their real name at them to release their souls to the afterlife or something. Whatever. So I don't know why the Maw has a mask other than to simply draw a visual link between it and its victims, which like, sure. Whatever, basic. This could have been made quite interesting if we ever found out whose mask this is. Maybe it could have been a plot twist or an emotional moment for the protagonist, but that never happens. So this mask doesn't really say or mean anything, which is a huge shame because masks in general have such an incredible symbolic potential. This is a gimme and they missed it. Again, what a shame.
We all wear masks, metaphorically speaking.
Moving on to the next obvious feature, this mask is held on by these black strings or wires or something that are prominent all over the Maw's design, really just busying it up. Because I mean, like, By itself, I like this kind of thing. It's cutting into the flesh a little, it's deforming the shape of its flesh. That can be really visually interesting. This kind of flesh deformation can ride the line between sexy and gross or disturbing or scary. And sex and death are good visual symbolic contrasts to use in a monster design. Of course. That's why we got them Cenobites. Fishnets and fetish wear deform the flesh and skin in generally alluring ways, but tightly binding the flesh starts dipping into scary territory. There's also the potential of looking like a hunk of meat in a deli, which your mileage may vary on how alluring you find that based on how hungry you are. But anyway, this creature has thin black wire string holding the mask on, as well as arbitrarily wrapping all over its body in a painful looking way, and it's just a bit much to take in, especially when you take into account the additional presence of bandages evoking self-harm imagery and little clusters of holes in its torso, which is just a cheap stab at trying to trigger the tryptophobics out there. So tryptophobia, if you don't know, is the aversion to the sight of irregular patterns or clusters of small holes or bumps. Sorry if you hate that. I think it's kind of cool. It's a visceral kind of lizard brain reaction to dislike that sort of stuff. So again, it's a thing that can be used successfully, but it isn't here due to just overcrowding. It comes off like it's a very cheap, desperate shot here. The last head detail. Oh my god, we're still on its head. We got your classic big ol' scary monster mouth, kind of skeletal. That's fun. I like a good skeleton mouth. You got your big slimy monster tongue, implying the monster's voracious appetite, which can either be literal or sexual or murderous. And like, sure, I can dig it. Lots of wiggle room there. You usually can't go wrong with a big ol' monster mouth or big ol' monster tongue. They learned one thing from the best, one single thing, one single little tiny thing they learned from the best. There's nothing especially, wrong or too busy about the bottom chunk of this thing's face, except I kind of don't understand why the color changes from this dark black gray to fleshy as it goes down the neck. Is that something? I don't know what that's about. That's just weird. Before we go down even further on this character, let's address the wings situation. Why are they here? This thing doesn't fly, nor is that a skill it's ever hinted at having had. The game has recurring moth and butterfly motifs, so it would be a pretty big no-brainer to give this bad guy some insect wings, and yet, they're not. They're bat wings. Why? What gives? Well, it's not for lack of trying. If you look at the concept art for the maw, which cannot stop voguing, girl. There's fierce and then there's fierce. The maw was clearly going to have moth wings from the start, so I imagine some doofus with authority looked at this concept and said, I like them, but can these be bat wings instead? Bat wings are cooler, and that was that. It happens all the time in illustration work. You get a cool idea, the client says, I like my dumb idea better, and that's it. What do you want to not get paid? You gotta draw the shitty thing now, sorry. You can even see that there was an effort to put forth the idea that one of the wings had been torn off, which would have been a far better idea for a more discernible asymmetrical silhouette. One of the first things you learn in character design classes is the importance of a silhouette. It's what makes a design distinct and recognizable from a distance or in unfavorable lighting conditions, which is how you normally see a monster. And having an asymmetrical wing on this critter may have come in handy in a game where the monster is fucking invisible most of the time and I can't tell which direction it is facing so I can sneak around it. Video games. Look at this, you take one wing off, it's suddenly far easier to tell which way it's facing. God, what a shame. Now you're pissing me off. Alright, perverts, it's titty time. So I imagine that the inclusion of breasts on this character from the galaxy-brained edgelord mindset of the developers at Bloober Team is because this is a rape demon situation. Marianne's sister Lillian was raped as a 12-year-old and later allowed the maw to exist in order to save herself and her sister from a house fire.
None of you understand!
I do. Save yourself. Let me help you.
What about her?
Leave her. Let her burn.
No, no, no! She's my sister!
Then set me free.
and I will save you both.
And I guess this is all symbolically mushing up against the instigating event of her being raped and the mob came into being, but not the event where it literally became existent in the house fire. Why are there no burns on this thing? Come on! You're gonna put every fucking bell and whistle on this creature except burning it when it's relevant that it might be to the plot? Like, oh my fucking god. Rape demon is my assumption, and it's a pretty crass and distasteful way to go about it. In addition to the Maw's originating from the trauma of Lillian's rape, the Maw's MO is rapey too.
No need to be shy. So close. So very close. Can't tell where one begins and where the other ends.
It possesses people in order to go on killing sprees, invading their bodies without their consent.
This is where it happened. Of all the places.
You? What are you? No! Get out! Ah! No!
No, not pleasant.
Personifying rape with a monster is very tricky, and it can come off as victim-blamey and misogynistic when done wrong. The rape monster in Silent Hill 2, Pyramid— No, gotcha. I'm talking about Abstract Daddy. Gotcha. Abstract Daddy has no obvious female or male parts at first glance, but look at it. This is sex. It first shows up in a room with thrusting pistons, too. It's a dehumanized, biological, mechanical rape. There is simply the formless, harrowing, and yes, abstract implication of a disturbing act. When it comes to portraying a rape monster, I think throwing boobs on it is not the way to go. Because firstly, rape has nothing to do with boobs. And secondly, because boobs are everywhere in video games and usually quite hypersexualized. If you want to portray a rape in a game, you cannot risk it coming off as titillating in any way. There's nothing hot about abstract daddies unless you're an extreme monster fetishist. But if you put a boob on a monster, someone's gonna be like, hey, at it. Auga, hachi machi, a booby. There's so many monsters out there where the design ethos is, I don't know, throw titties on it, make it a little hot. And it kind of poisons the well for other titty monsters, making it a cliche regardless of whether that monster has any meaning attached to those baps. Especially when you consider that the Maw is already so busy with bullshit, non-symbolic visual gimmicks. The addition of breasts is just another drop in the vague ocean, even when we know that Lillian was raped. And like I said, what do breasts have to do with rape? Nothing. What the fuck? If you look at other famous rape monsters, the monster is almost always phallic in nature and, you know, not a breast haver. You know, there's certainly exceptions to this rule. I don't need everyone to list out every single vagina monster in games down in the comments. Please refrain from doing that, actually. I've seen a lot of them. And I'm not saying that we can't break away from established tropes or put boobs on a monster just to have boobs on a monster, but giving the Maw, specifically, a pair of breasts, it makes me think either the devs said, I don't know, slap boobs on it, that's scary, right? Or rape equals sex equals boobs? Call it a day, folks? Or the Maw is wrapped up in puberty symbolism because Lily was raped at 12, equating breasts with rape in a you deserved it, you tempted the aggressor with your womanly features, victim-blaming fashion, which makes sense, but no. The plot doesn't do much to support this theory in other ways, but I can buy into the idea that this monster symbolizes self-loathing, self-blame, and self-destruction more than anything else. I mean, the thing won't stop crying.
Can't go out like this. Alone. Naked.
It's got self-harm bandages all over it, it's anorexically thin, it's got deformed breasts, but it's not relatable, it's not empathetic, it's just edgy and cruel and distasteful. Especially in light of the fact that the game spends like, I don't know, 2 hours humanizing the rapist.
Something terrible happened here. It changed Richard forever.
No!
What the hell?
Richard's the pedophile, by the way.
Leave her
Yep.
alone!
We're gonna get real a real sympathetic view of this pedophile, I think.
Richard's big, ugly secret. The sum of all his demons.
Oh my god.
1 hour later.
I guess he symbolizes trauma or being a pedophile because someone did bad things to you as a kid. Yeah, man. Awooga.
Let's get this over with.
What the fuck? Please, let's. Poof, poof, stupid. Somebody stop Bloober Team. Jesus Christ, they're not good at this. Who the fuck's idea was humanizing the rapist? Fire them. Whew, boy. Okay, along with the breasts, we have to talk about the other gendered elephant in the room. Its voice.
You don't care.
The Maw is voiced by Troy Baker, a cis man with a deep voice who was probably given no sane vocal direction because he went ahead and did this.
Stay with me. No. Don't leave. They always leave.
What? Stop! A thing that's been pointed out a few times by the folks in my comments now is how off-put they are by the Maw, not in a good way, but in a way, in that it seems suspiciously trans-coded. Feminine features like breasts and ballerina feet, mixed with the deep masculine vocals of Troy Baker, along with the threats to wear the protagonist as a skin suit, are suspiciously evocative of Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Especially when Troy Baker says them in a voice that sounds like an impression of Buffalo Bill. If you don't know why that's weird, you should watch Lindsay Ellis's video about the history of pop culture transphobia. It's very good. It has a lot of big, deep bits about Buffalo Bill. Please do that. It's very good. I'm not gonna get into it. So, as a cis woman, it ain't really my place to comment on this too deeply. But I will say this without hesitation. I get it. I absolutely see this. I have no idea if the devs were going for like a Baphomet gender ambiguity thing here and just super missed the mark by using hyper feminine elements with a hyper mask voice or something like that, but the intersex traits of the Maw serves no relevant purpose to the plot or the characters of the medium, so it really just feels like they did it to make the thing fucking weirder, which is, you know, also not good. But just goddamn, I hate this character design so much in so many ways. Wow. Like, they tried to make it bad. I don't know. I would love to see a video from a trans creator about the Maw and its transcoding and what they feel about that. Because yikes. Someone do that, please. That'd be really cool. Hashtag keep bullying the Maw. Moving on though, right below the breasts is that cluster of holes I mentioned that are just to upset people who are upset by clusters of holes. A cheap shot in a pile of other horror trope shortcuts. And you know, you got your basic monster claws, which sure, you know, go for it. I got no issue with monster claws, it's fine. Continuing down, we have the one blank spot on this whole creature, the crotch, which thank fucking God. I don't want to think about what they would have put here, so let's just be thankful the developers discovered the concept of restraint for this single, like, 5-inch patch of the monster. Let's move on. Then lastly, at the end of its gams for days, we got its feet permanently warped into an en pointe position, further feminizing the design. I don't know how to say en point, by the way. I'm just gonna say en pointe. En pointe. Male ballerinas do sometimes go en pointe, but it's traditionally considered the realm of female ballerinas, so let's consider this a feminizing feature. These feet mean nothing, of course, like most other features on this thing. It's just to appear mysterious and meaningful. This is especially weak because it would be cool if the Maw took on aspects of those it possessed. This could be one of those things. There was a ballerina at some point that the Maw probably ate. Maybe it took on the feature of the ballerina feet from having eaten that lady. The bandages could be from Nurse Ursula, who the Maw possessed.
Are you in there? Even a speck of you left? I hope so. 'Cause I want you to feel everything.
I don't know, it's a cool thought that it might take on the aspects of those it possessed or killed, but that just kind of raises other questions like what's with the wings, what's with the lotus seed pod holes? The maw should also have deer-like design elements if this was the case, because it's implied multiple times that the maw has consumed a bunch of deer. That would honestly be a really cool design element and would have brought the creature a little closer to Baphomet territory and a little further away from the transcoding territory with the cloven feet situation, but oop, it's gonna be an oop. To be clear, I don't expect every nook and cranny of a monster to have meaning, but in a certain sense, when you present a monster like this and it's just a fully loaded potato of horror trope parts, and none of the parts mean anything, you're almost lying to the player at a certain point. The maw is just a heap of red herrings that seem interesting but amount to nothing. As a bit of a parting thought, I don't want to put Silent Hill on too big of a pedestal here. I am fully acknowledging that not every monster in Silent Hill is some sort of genius, meaningful thing or something that's entirely original or anything like that. While the mannequins in Silent Hill 2 are great, simple, creepy things that imply James's objectification of women, it sure looks pretty much exactly the same as this Hans Belmer photo. Artist of the game Masahiro Ito claims that this was not a source of inspiration, but look at it. The closers in Silent Hill 3 look like they gotta mean something, but actually, they were just reuse assets from Silent Hill 2 because they only showed up twice in the whole game and you hardly saw them, which is kind of a waste, reuse that thing. Actually, hardly any of the monsters in Silent Hill 3 mean like anything, and the fandom has taken it upon itself to fill in the blanks with increasingly wacky explanations. Ah, yes, the closers appear in a mall, and those big hands are big old shopping bags, and I guess Heather hates mall rat girls and something. Silent Hill 4 has these big-ass nurses that burp on every step of the way down when you hit them downstairs.
Bye! See ya later, I guess.
You will, because I think she's gonna get back up, because you don't...
And they're also not nurses, they're called patients. Huh? The later Silent Hill games are also very guilty of over-designing its monsters. My personal favorite over-designed mess is the final boss of Silent Hill Homecoming. Whoa! What? It's like they threw darts at a board and it just hit random words like pregnant, multi-boobed, naked woman, spider, mechanical knife legs, collapsible head that looks like an old-timey camera, but maybe that's just me. A blowjob, umbilical cord, vagina, pumping liquid. Ugh! Jesus Christ, bless this mess. How did the blowjob vagina tentacle thing even get approved? Good Lord, what is happening in there? What's really wild is that most of those things actually do mean something, but the monster is so oversaturated with these unsubtle symbolic features that both the monster and the message just suffers overall. Spoilers for Silent Hill Homecoming, does anyone care about this? This monster represents the protagonist's brother Joshua, who drowned to death in an accident, liked spiders, liked taking pictures, and was treated as the precious baby of the family by his overprotective mother. At the end of the boss fight, Joshua's body falls out of the creature's belly. It's super gross. And, the boss's name is Amnion. Like, you can't get more on the nose than this, right? It's amniotic fluid. I guess it's supposed to be ironic that, you broke this thing's water and Joshua died in water. Is that that's the thing they were trying to do there, But then it's got the blowjob titty stuff on there for no reason, just to spice it up with needless, disturbing sexual imagery. Just, as you do. And lastly, I want to admit a dark secret. I, too, am guilty of over-designing a symbolic Silent Hill wannabe creature. I have a degree in illustration, actually, if you didn't know that, and for a Silent Hill fanzine in 2012, I drew a monster that I named Mascara. And, well, I don't know, after looking at the maw, I think it's actually kind of good now. Damn. Wait a minute, what the? Thanks for watching another one of these short and dirty episodes. This is probably my last video bullying the maw. Probably. Don't count on it. But I think I'm done. I think it's out of my system. I think I'm done bullying the maw. It can go on its own way. Thank you so much to my patrons. All of you are special somethings to me. But especially thank you to my most valuable patrons, and they are Josh Moniz, Ken Sawden, Tony the Tank Engine, and Jonathan Lau. Thank you again so much. Wind beneath my wings you all are. My non-functional bat-like wings that should have been insect wings, but you are the wind beneath it. And thank you again to Chip Cheesem for balancing my audio. You the best. And if I stole any footage from BodVids, again, thank you to BodVids for letting me have the footage that you've already taken that you let me have. Thank you so much. If you want more content from me, just ask. If you liked what you saw, I hope you like it and subscribe and all that garbage and tell your friends and stuff like that. It'd be cool to have more people see my cool monster opinions and other things like that. If you want more of me, I have a Twitter. I'm always on that damn thing. I have a problem. But I have a Twitter account. I have a Twitch channel. I have another YouTube gaming channel that is just my streams and my Let's Plays and stuff like that. And, of course, I have a Patreon. Maybe you want some cool, extra things in the Patreon. Outtakes if there's outtakes, stuff like that. Get to vote on polls for things that I stream. I stream weekly, give or take. Schedule may change, though. I don't want to say exactly when I do in case somebody watches this video like 5 years from now and the schedule's different. But yeah, it's all VoidBurger. I've got the brand sorted out. It's all VoidBurger. You can't miss it. VoidBurger at Patreon, VoidBurger at Twitter, VoidBurger at Twitch. Hit me up. And for your little question prompt, how about, do you have a favorite, monster element? Of all the things that are on the Maw, what do you think is, some of the more successful things? If you were to simplify the Maw's design, what would you take out or change? That could be interesting. I already said a bunch of my opinions with, it'd be cool if there was deer stuff on it instead of boob stuff. That'd be great. Or, I'd be really interested, is there something you find scary that you have never or rarely seen on a monster design before? That's a fun one. That's a really fun one. For me, it was ballerina feet, as you can tell from my drawing of the thing I drew. Ballerina feet don't come up very often. I think they're kind of spooky, doing that to your foot. That sucks. It's a little body horror for me. So yeah, thanks for watching. Peace out. Be safe, everybody. Bye.